People have been asking me for a while now to do an update on the Shrimple, and to be honest, I've been a bit reluctant because it's kind of become my lazy tank. But that reluctance is definitely born from some notion that a tank has to look perfect. And what does that even mean anyway? This tank is perfectly balanced. Isn't that its own kind of perfection? So this video is all about my slightly messy, slightly overgrown, but completely joyful to watch Shrimple. First up, let's do a quick recap about what this tank actually is. I had a brainwave one day about combining an air-driven filter with the stacks of breeding tubes that you often see being sold for shrimp. The idea I came up with somewhat resembled a pyramid or Mayan temple, and so the idea of the Shrimple was born. At the center of the Shrimple is an air-driven uplift pipe that pulls water from the bottom layer of larger pipes. From the front, this is pulling water over biological media, and from the back, this is pulling water through the gravel. The filter was then fitted with a spray bar to increase water flow and CO2 distribution. Attached to the Shrimple is a bunch of different mosses, bolbitis heudelotii, cryptocryne parva, and bucephelandra catherinae. And to give it more of a temple effect, I also attached shards of cerastone to give the effect of the stepped layers of a temple. All of the different caves offer a significantly increased surface area on which the shrimp can live, eat, and breed. All in all, I think it's a pretty unique and clever design that any shrimp breeder could easily copy. So after a year has passed, what has changed about this tank? Well, since releasing that video last year, I completely stripped out the Monte Carlo, stopped dosing CO2, reduced the light intensity, and have just let this tank settle down into life as a low energy tank that really doesn't require much more than the occasional scrubbing of the glass. And if I'm honest, it's also become an occasional holding tank for new plants and is often completely covered by duckweed. You'll notice that I no longer use a spray bar on the filter. It worked really well for increasing CO2 and fertilizer distribution, but the main downside was that the shrimp would occasionally go on an adventure through the center of the Shrimple and end up stuck inside the spray bar. In future designs, it would probably be a good idea to add a filter mesh to the uplift pipe to avoid this. But now that it is more of a low energy setup, it's really not a big deal to remove it and have slightly reduced circulation. The carpet of Monte Carlo has been donated to my bonsai tree tank, where it successfully adapted to grow as an epiphyte. In its place, the moss has largely taken over, and I've also recently dumped a bunch of Liliopsis novozelandae in the bottom from when I broke down the Toolstation filter aquarium. One of the key things I have learned from this tank is that when you break up marrow moss balls and flatten them out, they start to spread like wildfire, and there are large parts of the substrate that are now just covered in marrow moss that started life attached to the plastic pipes. But central to all of this is the shrimp, and they absolutely love this tank and continue to breed incessantly. I've given quite a few shrimp away or migrated them to other tanks, but I'd estimate that around 300 shrimp have been born in the tank over the past year alone, and there is no sign of this slowing up. The Shrimple has also proven to be great for breeding assassin snails, who don't breed particularly rapidly but are great for eradicating any pest snails that make their way into my other tanks. Now, some of you were concerned about me mixing the shrimp and ending up with lots of them reverting to ordinary colourless wild type grades. Well, your concerns were warranted, but I honestly don't care. When I move shrimp between tanks, I tend to pick the higher grade shrimp and achieve better lineage in my other tanks, but in the Shrimple, everyone is welcome and I'm not culling anything. In fact, for my bonsai scape, I actively chose to pick the wild types to be the cleanup crew since I didn't want them to be a feature, and they blend nicely into the tank and are barely noticeable. But of course, if I were interested in breeding shrimp for profit, then the sensible thing would be to cull and separate out the various grades. And I could see a situation where my Shrimple design would serve as a great commercial breeding tool. You needn't have it embedded under the gravel at the back, and so could easily lift the whole filter in and out to catch shrimp, but at the same time immediately create a lot more surface area for the shrimp when you add the filter back in. In terms of aesthetics, obviously it's not quite so clean and well maintained these days, and the messiness of the floor compared to the Monte Carlo carpet isn't quite as nice. That said, even at the point when I filmed the final shots of my original video, there was Christmas moss starting to invade the carpet, and it was never long before the moss completely took over when I was running CO2 on this tank, and I grew enough bolbitis to supply 3 other aquariums. But now, in its new low energy state, everything grows at a much slower pace, and you can just enjoy observing the shrimp. I've also started growing houseplants at the top of the aquarium to further aid in filtration, and everything seems to be perfectly balanced with minimal maintenance requirements. Interesting fact about the houseplants, the creeping fig plant I was growing at the top of the filter actually fell into the tank a few months ago and seems to have adapted to growing underwater. The fact that I let this experiment happen kind of gives you a view as to my relaxed mindset towards this tank. What I love most about this tank is that there isn't anywhere in it that doesn't have some kind of activity. I have a great time spotting all the new baby shrimp, and when I feed them, the flurry of activity is hilarious. And on that topic, shout out to Puzzle Aquatics for a great supply of shrimp food. Their blue bomb pellets with blueberry and blue spirulina and their bee pollen are both a massive hit with my shrimp, and they all look super healthy. This isn't a sponsored video or anything, I just think they are really good foods, and it's nice to see a small eBay seller creating high quality and innovative products. I'll leave a link in the video description. So what does the future hold for the Shrimple? Well, I hadn't kept shrimp in the past, and I have to say I am completely addicted. Whilst part of me would love to break it down so I can create another project for you guys, I don't think this tank is going anywhere anytime soon. But what I think I will do is try to restore that Mayan temple feel with a good trim and maybe the addition of some stem plants at the back to give it more of a jungle feel. What do you guys think? How should I change things up, and what would you like me to do with this tank? Now, earlier I spoke about my bonsai treescape. It's a rather ridiculous tale where I nearly poisoned myself whilst baking an acer tree in the oven. So check out that video by clicking here. Cheers.